Good afternoon. This is Sarah Collins, the Office of Employee Engagement and Wellbeing with Brigham Women's Hospital. And thank you for joining this series on financial education and well-being that Harvard University Employee Credit Union is running for us. I just want to thank Sarah and Magdalia for their presentation today and welcome all of you to join the rest of the remaining sessions for the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everyone again for joining us today. Very briefly, what we're going to do today is we're going to cover different debt repayment strategies. Myself and Sarah Scruggs will go through some of the different strategies. And as you're listening, if you have any questions, you'll be able to ask us questions, and we'll also make this presentation available to you. We have gone ahead and muted everyone. We do know for some of you it may be lunchtime or maybe working from home and may have little ones that are around, or such as myself, may have a dog that may want to bark occasionally. So we have gone ahead and muted you so you feel more comfortable. However, as I said, you can ask us questions throughout. And just to make sure that you're comfortable using the questions feature and that you can hear me and we're good to start in the details, please let me know where are you joining us from today. You can use the questions panel, which will be either on the top navigation or the right-hand side, depending on which platform you logged in. It may be in a different location, but there should be a questions feature that will allow you to chat with us. Where are you joining us from today? This will help me know that you can hear us, and also will be how you can submit questions throughout today's presentation. As I wait for you to submit those comments as to where you are joining us from today, I'll tell you a little bit about the presentation and additional resources. What we will do is we will email you most likely tomorrow. We have another presentation that we're doing later today for some of your colleagues. So we'll send an email tomorrow with the presentation and with some additional slides and other points that may be beneficial for you to have. So you'll have access to the PowerPoint, and we are also going to record it and make that available on the BWH page. And I see that some of you are joining from Boston, working from home. Thank you for letting me know that that is working and that you can hear us. For some of you that may not be familiar with us, we are the Harvard University Employees Credit Union. That's a very long way of saying that we are a not-for-profit institution created by Harvard for the Harvard community. As a not-for-profit institution, we're very fortunate because we can do the same as a bank, but we can do it better in the sense that we can provide lower rates on loans and higher rates on savings. And we also are available to those in your household as well. With HUECU member, you're a member for life, and all of you are eligible for membership through our partnership with BWH. That's all that I'll say specifically about HUECU, but if you have any questions, feel free to use the questions panel and I'll clarify anything else. This is one of many presentations that we are doing with BWH. The next couple ones are listed here on the screen. Just like you registered for this session, you can register for additional sessions as well. And if you're not able to attend, I would still recommend registering so that you can receive that email, or just checking back onto that page in a couple of days after the session. And that is where we will upload the slides and also the recording of that session. As I mentioned, we are a not-for-profit financial institution. And as a not-for-profit financial institution, one of the things that we're very proud of is the ability to be able to help our membership. Members of credit unions are owners of credit unions. That means that when everything started to happen with COVID-19, our senior team, our colleagues, us, we've thought, okay, what can we do to help? What are the options that we have? And we've done some things for those of you that are members. We just want to make you aware. There are skip a payment options. We've lowered rates on products. And we've also have a support form. So if you have any specific situation that perhaps a product isn't answering or isn't a solution to your situation, you can submit a form and so one of us will get in touch with you and see what options are available. So today we're going to talk about debt repayment. Before we get into the different strategies, we're going to think about this in different steps. The first one being, what does debt look like today? What does your financial situation look like today? In order for us to improve anything, whether that is a room that we're trying to clean, whether that is our diet, whether that is any personal goal that we may have, we need to set a starting point. What that means for us in terms of debt repayment is looking not only at the debt that we have, but also looking at an emergency fund or looking at access to money when something will happen. This is going to be an important piece of debt repayment because very often in my role at the credit union, I will sometimes meet with members, do one-on-ones and help them. And we also have a service that I'll make available to all of you that you can get additional support if you want to talk to someone about your specific situation. And this is all available to you as a community. You do not need to be a member of the credit union. But something that I've seen frequently, and I've experienced this myself as well, is being in the path of debt repayment, putting our money towards debt repayment, and then something happens. And maybe we just didn't have those funds set aside, and now we have to utilize our credit card, or we have to sort of undo that debt repayment by taking on additional debt. So it's very important as we're thinking about debt repayment to think first, how much money do we have set aside for emergency fund? And the reality is life is happening, things are happening. We are literally experiencing this right now where changes of income, and it's going to be beneficial for us to have this money set aside. There are many school of thoughts as to how much you need set aside. The reality is that it's about 6 to 9 months of expenses. But I don't know about you, that could be an intimidating number, and we're aware of that. So what I would recommend is start small, calculate how much do I absolutely need for a month, and then try to build off of that. So if, and I'm just going to use simple math, if I need $6,000 to have an emergency fund that I am comfortable with in my specific situation, $6,000 is a lot of money. It's a lot to think of to go from 0 to 6,000. But what if I start small and try to build to 500, try to build to 1,000, and slowly build my way up to 6,000? Most financial emergencies that happen, if we have about $1,000 in our savings account, we tend to be able to absorb most financial situations that occur. Of course, everyone's situation will be different, especially if you are a parent, if you have a partner, if you have dependents. So there are different situations that could impact how much you would need specifically. But once we have that money set aside, or even if we don't have that 6,000, once we have a plan of I'm going to work towards that, it's going to be important to know what is the cost of the debt that we currently have. So one of the steps that we recommend is listing all of your debt. And we have a worksheet and we have others available on our website at huecu.org/hub that you can access. But if you're not someone that likes a worksheet, if you prefer pen and paper, if you prefer Excel, utilize whatever is going to work best for your situation. The key is to really do the math and determine how much do I actually owe? What does my car loan look like? What does my credit card look like? What about my mortgage? Student loans? Do I have multiple credit cards? It's not a fun exercise, I'll be the first to say that, because it does make you face the numbers. But in order for us to progress, we really need to know where are we? What's our starting point? List the balance and list the interest rate and your monthly payment. Once you have this information, one of the things that you could do, and we'll share some of the places you can do this, is you can calculate the cost of your debt. The cost of your debt is also known as the interest, but interest sounds nicer. So we don't really say cost of your debt. I encourage you to use your language wisely and change it. So, instead of interest, it's really, this is how much it's going to cost me to have this debt. This number, especially if you have debt that's a mortgage, a student loan, something that's going to be over 10 years, typically will be sometimes an alarming number to realize I'm paying how much in interest. But that is one of the best ways for us to get the fire, to fuel ourselves to try to repay that debt. And that's going to be something that's going to be important. As we're talking about repaying our debt, why are we trying to do this? What is motivating us to move in the direction to repay our debt? Are we trying to increase savings? Are we trying to save for our wedding? That motivation is going to come into play. And Sarah will talk a little bit more as to when that motivation will be beneficial, when you may hit a couple of hiccups along the way. So once we know how much money we owe, calculate the total interest. Now, seeing here that I have $15,000 in debt and my total interest is going to be $6,862, that may be enough for me to realize, ooh, I want to do something about that, because giving a financial institution $6,000, almost $7,000 to hold my debt, I feel like I could do something better with my money. And going back to what my financial goal is, maybe it's a wedding, maybe it's paying for my child's education, maybe it's a trip, whatever that other is, whatever that goal is, it's money that we can take from our interest and allocate it to our other financial goals. So what are some of the ways that we can actually repay this debt now that we understand where we're starting from? One of the best ways is really looking for lower rates. Most loans that you have, including credit cards, will offer you the opportunity of refinancing. And what refinancing is taking the debt from company A and bringing it over to company B. The benefit of this for company B is they're going to offer you typically a lower interest rate, and now they're going to have your debt product. So a lot of times I get that question, well, why would a company offer me a lower interest rate? Because now it's a new business relationship, it's a new partnership that you have with that institution. A lot of times with debt repayment, we have to go back to, well, what is our purpose? What are we trying to do? There are times that we may refinance our debt and actually extend the terms, meaning that if we see this often with car loans. If I have a car loan that is a 3-year car loan, I may decide, you know what, that monthly payment is a little bit too high for me right now. I may decide to extend it to 5 years. And in that extension of 5 years, I may end up reducing the interest that I'm paying because the interest rate has dropped that significantly. Or there may be times that the interest rate change isn't much, but because I'm extending it and because the interest rate tends to be a little bit of the lower end for car loans, I may end up paying only a little bit more in interest over the life of the loan. So it may cost me an additional $200-$300, but if it's going to give me additional cash flow, I may decide to go with that option. So it's important to understand, what is the goal? What are we trying to accomplish when we're setting our debt repayment? Are we trying to accelerate our debt repayment to be done paying off debt faster? Or are we trying to reduce our monthly cash flow? Increase our monthly cash flow and reduce our expenses. It's going to be important, if you are going to look into refinancing, to look at your credit report. That's going to be a good starting point and know what your credit score is, because of the fact that many lenders are going to do what's called tiered pricing, meaning that based off XYZ credit score, you're going to get ABC interest rate. And typically the higher the credit score, the lower the interest rate that you will pay for that debt. Something that is new and we want to point out during COVID-19 is that annualcreditreport.com should actually change its name right now, because it's really weeklycreditreport.com at this point. But they're offering free weekly reports through April 2021. So as a result of COVID-19, many individuals are now changing their loan situations, their refinancing. So the credit bureaus have made it available that you can pull your credit report for free. It does not impact your credit score once a week if you wanted to do it more frequently. So now that we understand one option, which is refinancing to lower your interest rate, we're going to talk a little bit about another repayment strategy, which is based off of the amounts that you apply towards your payment. Because we are in New England, most of us are familiar with snow, or have had a snowball, made a snowball, or had a snowball fight at some point with our peers or with our children. And one of the things, if you think of a snowball, is you start small and then you build up, you pack on additional. That is a repayment strategy when you choose to pay off the debt with the smallest balance first and you build momentum. If you are an individual that likes lists, and if you have something on your list, you did it, but you did something that wasn't on the list and you felt like, I need to write this down because I want to cross that off. I need that sense of accomplishment. The snowball method may be the best method for you. This means that if I had 3 debts, one that was $500, one that was $1,000, and one that was $10,000, I would focus on paying off that $500 debt first, meaning that I would pay the minimum on my other debt. I'd pay the minimum on my other debt, and I would pay as much as I can on that $500 debt so that I have one less debt. Now I only have 2 loans that are outstanding. Then when I have the 2 loans, I would pay the lowest and continue to pay the minimum on the highest amount. Avalanche is the opposite. Avalanche, I'm focusing on the highest interest. So I'm not looking at the amounts, I'm looking at the interest. So if I have a loan that's 500 at 2% and I have a $10,000 loan that's at 18%, I'm going to focus on that 18% debt first. I'm going to focus on the highest balance, the highest interest. Avalanche is the method that's going to save you the most financially if you stick to it. It is, however, one that if you're a type of individual that you need to see results, it may be the one that could be sometimes most discouraging. So it's important to know your personality. If you need to see small victories, snowball may be best for you. If you are okay waiting 4 or 5 years to pay off your debt before you see any true progress or before you could officially cross something off that list, Avalanche will work with you, or work best with you. And then there's Sprinkle, and the Sprinkle method is sort of exactly that, just sort of sprinkle extra payments and you don't technically have a strategy, which is not a bad method. It's just a different method. So you have to find what's going to work best for you. I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, who's going to talk a little bit more about some additional repayment options that are available.
Thanks, Migdalia. So like Migdalia said, you really have to find what motivates you. When you're thinking about moving forward in this process, it doesn't look like a bunch of fun, I think, at that point, but you have to say, if I'm motivated to make sure that I can save enough money to go on a vacation next year, then we want to make sure that we're motivated to pay off those debts in the same way. So a part of motivation is about writing it down and having goals. Because if you don't have any goals that you're working towards in your financial life, then it will be difficult to get yourself to up those monthly payments or look for refinancing options. So you really have to have those goals in mind when you're trying to think about what truly motivates you. On this slide, it talks a little bit about outsmarting your debt. So Migdalia talked a little bit about refinancing with us, and that's a great way to begin outsmarting your debt. We can see that this loan is at 18% for 5 years. That's the original loan. And you can see the interest over the life of the loan is quite a bit. And if you're thinking about refinancing at this point, there are a lot of different options out there, and I encourage you, take some time, set aside some time this weekend even, to look through different refinancing options, whether that be through the credit union or through other financial institutions, because we want to get that best rate for you. Even a drop in 8% of interest, you can see saves you quite a bit of money in the long term when you're thinking about a loan for 5 years. So this refinance has just a lower interest rate, but same terms. And then let's say that you were comfortable paying that $254 a month for this loan. Well, why not keep it there? Even when you've lowered that interest rate, so you're going to be paying more than the monthly minimum, but you're able to make these payments and continue making those payments. So you'll save a little bit of interest on the end. So that can save you about $600. And then there's also the round up method. 254, kind of a random number. And so if you round up to 275, you're able to pay it off even faster and save even more money. So you have some strategies here where you can pay off maybe just even a little bit more. That $20 even can save you a lot of money over that lifetime of the loan. It saves about $3,000 in interest. So you really want to, this is where sitting down and calculating these things comes into play. So once you've written out all of your debts and you can see all of those, I think it's really important to take some time to calculate how you can save money on those. Here at HUECU, we do have calculators on our website that can help you see, okay, if I refinance, how much money could I save? And you can play around with the numbers here. So let's say you want to use the roundup method. Great, you can type that in and figure that out and kind of figure out what works for you and your budget at this point in time. What if your debt is greater than your income? This is a tough question because I think when you're in this place, you feel like, I'll never get out of here. But I want to tell you there's help for that. There's what we call a debt management plan. And this, what we call a DMP, you'll see that a lot. But a debt management plan is not the same as debt settlement. And I want to be very clear about that. You'll hear debt settlement said on radio or television, and this is not a debt settlement. A debt management plan is done by a nonprofit, and they are all federally regulated. So they are heavily federally regulated. And these, they don't hurt your credit score as much as debt settlement, and they don't hurt your ability to get another loan in the future. A debt management plan means you pay off all of those loans, but the nonprofit is willing to work with the credit agencies to get those interest rates and fees lowered for you so that you can pay off a little bit easier. They also provide financial counseling and make sure that you can pay it off within 5 years. One thing too that I want to note is that it's important to know that a debt management plan does cost money, and they will only suggest the debt management plan when that costs saves you money in the long run. And there are definitely pros and cons to a debt management plan. I won't read off all of these, but just know that it is not the answer for everyone's debt. Otherwise, we would have all been doing it from the beginning. It's not the answer for everyone's debt. It's only the answer for some people's debt. And so we encourage you to speak with Green Path Financial Wellness. Green Path Financial Wellness is a nonprofit that works with people in our community here at HUECU. You don't have to be a member to call them, and anyone in your household can call them to get help. They can work with you with budget counseling and credit report review, and also get you started on a debt management plan if that's what you need. Like I said, they won't recommend it unless it saves you money in the long run. But I think what's really important here is that even if your debt is manageable at this point in time, it's great to go ahead and call Green Path so that you can make sure that what you're doing is sound and you get good advice from people who are accredited. So next steps, you have to know your starting point to get to where you want to go. So you're going to have that conversation with yourself and with your family. Making sure you have that emergency fund is really important, so saving for tomorrow. And then also understanding what you owe. Sitting down, calculating it out. You need to get that done so that you can see this is where I am and here's where I want to go. Knowing your personality. Do you want to do sprinkle, avalanche, snowball? Which one will work best for you and keep you motivated? And remember, the biggest point is reduce. Don't add to your debt. During this time when you're trying to pay down your debt, try not to take on any more debt. Just continue to pay it off so that we can reduce those numbers for you. We do have a blog on our website, so blog.huecu.org. We have been keeping up to date with all relevant information, sending out articles so that you can learn more. You don't have to be a member of the credit union, and anyone can go on our website and read our blogs, but there are tons of really reputable sources out there. That's really what we want you to think about, is that if you have questions and maybe you're not ready to talk to someone directly about it, a blog could be a really great resource for you. And at the end of the day, like Migdalia said, our contact information will be in the email we send out tomorrow. So if you have questions that we weren't able to get to today, or that maybe you think of tomorrow morning, please don't hesitate to reach out. I think it's important that we begin this conversation so that we can get you on the right path to paying off your debt quickly.